Now, SASSA's acting CEO Abraham Mahlangu appeared in Parliament this week to answer questions about the agency's spending, which included over 300 million rand to CPS in an irregular manner. He joins me now from our Seapoint studios. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Firstly, can you explain what irregular expenditure is to us? SASSA was said to have an irregular expenditure of 1.4 billion rand.
Good afternoon, Mazinga, and good afternoon to all your viewers. The issue of irregular expenditure, it's a transaction that happens in service when people are buying or procuring and not following the supply chain processes. It could be that they acted outside of their delegation, or they could have done something that they were not supposed to have done in terms of getting those services, but those goods would have been consumed by the procurer or the organization that procures them.
So can you give us an insight then into this 1.4 billion rand irregular expenditure by SASSA? Where is it mostly happening, and what are you doing about it?
This 1.4 billion actually comes from the 15-16 financial year. And during that year, it is the first time it came to light. And for the current year under review, it's only about 300 million in irregular expenditure. It came about a number of issues, including the extension of contracts for accommodation. It included the fiscal security of contracts, whereby they were extended over and over. For reasons sometimes where people did not necessarily have enough time to finalize the negotiations and discussions between the landlord and so forth. So that is how it largely came about.
Okay,
but we are finalizing investigations. Some of these investigations have yielded a result of needing to go to court. So they are now under court, and we are going to finalize those as soon as the court outcomes have been made known. Then we take the necessary action.
Okay, let's talk about this 20 million rand that was allegedly approved for 4 events by former CEO Pearl Bengu. When you appeared in Parliament, you said you can't account for it. Many people have said that these 4 payments that were made at the end of December were actually corruption or money that was going to be used to bribe people at the ANC's December conference. Now, I know that you weren't there as CEO when it happens, but is there no information handover when you became acting CEO where sums like this are explained to you?
When I took over, I got a report. The report I actually got about a week ago, where it had indicated the preliminary outcome of an internal audit, which indicated that there could have been these kind of irregular expenditure or some activities that were non-compliant within that region. And I immediately undertook that I will institute a full investigation and see if it will corroborate the initial findings by the internal audit team. And the outcome thereof will lead to what action must be taken for all the people that were involved in this particular transaction.
Okay, let's move away from that now. There's been a cancellation of a tender for cash distribution. Take us through how SASSA is going to manage that, especially for people who don't have access perhaps to going to a post bank or don't have electronic means of access to funds.
SASSA is going to continue to pay social grants to all beneficiaries. That I must state very clearly. The fact that we cancelled the cash tender will not in any way jeopardize the grants recipients. SASSA is working together with SAPO to be the main partner in grants distribution and payment. And we are also working now with the retail groups and also the merchants and the banks to make sure that those that do not necessarily have access to the NPS system or national payment system infrastructure in their areas, the alliances I spoke about, that we are approaching to work together with us will provide and bring those services to the people. However, in extreme cases where perhaps people will still lack access to infrastructure, the government will make sure that those people are brought closer to where they can access their cash after it has been deposited into their accounts. So we are saying to our beneficiaries, they will get their grants. The way of getting the grants is changing. We are going to be encouraging them, and as I'm doing now, that they will have to swap their cards from the old SASSA card to the new SASSA card by the end of September this year, so that the payment will continue under the new card dispensation.
Mr. Mahlangu, very briefly, we've seen that billions of rands have been overspent. You're saying 300 million this year. It's taken SASSA about 5 years to get rid of an illegal contract. Is SASSA going to be able to deliver to the people it's supposed to serve fully? And then how long will it take you, as the acting CEO, to monitor what needs to be fixed and people who may be falling through the cracks?
I must confirm to the beneficiaries and the nation that SASSA will and is capable to continue the payment of grants. In the areas where we need to improve infrastructure, we have collaborated with the South African Post Office, and we are working 24/7 to make sure that we continue to pay grants. Yes, we do understand that it could have taken long to deal with certain cases. As I said, that some cases that have to do with courts, they have to be given space to come to the logical court conclusions before we could take actions. But there is nothing that will deter us from continuing to pay grants in whatever form to our beneficiaries.
Acting CEO of SASSA, Abraham Mahlangu, joining us there from our Sea Point studios in Cape Town. Thanks so much for your time.